That night in Alabama, the sky poured down like the heavens had cracked open, every drop slapping against my skin like an icy whip. I, Josephine, 27 years old, dragged myself home after a 12-hour shift at the diner. My body ached, my clothes clung to me, all I wanted was to hold my 8-month-old son in my arms. But when I turned onto our narrow street, my heart stopped. On the porch, sitting on the worn wooden steps, was Ethan, my baby boy, huddled in the storm. The yellow knit blanket I had made for him was soaked through, plastered to his tiny body. His face was flushed, lips tinged blue, his cries swallowed by the relentless rain. For a moment I froze. My bag slid from my shoulder into a puddle as I ran, scooping him up. His body was icy cold, trembling against my chest. I clutched the drenched blanket, tears streaming as I whispered, "Mommy's here, Ethan. I've got you now. No one will abandon you again." A harsh voice cut through the storm behind me. "Well, look who finally decided to show up." I turned. Standing in the doorway was Martha, my own mother. Her frail frame, arms crossed, face carved into the same scowl she wore when I was a child. Rain splattered across the porch, but she stood there unmoved, eyes sharp with contempt. I shouted, my voice cracking against the wind, "Mom, why? How could you leave him out here? He's just a baby." Her lips curled, words slicing like knives. "I told you, Josephine. I don't raise filth. That child is nothing but a burden, a disgrace to this family." I held Ethan tighter, my whole body shaking with rage and despair. "He's your grandson. He's your own blood." Before I could finish, a mocking laugh rang out. Clarissa, my older sister, leaned against the frame like it was a show put on just for her. At 25, always dressed to impress, with crimson lips and eyes like ice, she smirked. "How pathetic. This is the price for sleeping with a nobody. You really thought you deserved sympathy from us." My throat tightened. "Clarissa, he's your nephew. He hasn't done anything wrong." She raised a brow, her smile cruel. "He's the consequence. I don't care. You reap what you sow. Now get out. Stop dragging our family's name through the mud." I felt Ethan's ragged breath against me, his little hands gripping my shirt like a plea for rescue. My legs felt nailed to the ground, rage boiling but powerless. I pleaded, voice breaking, "Please. I have nowhere else to go. Just let us stay. Just a roof." Martha's stare hardened, her words like iron. "If you want to raise him, do it yourself. Not under my roof. Leave." The door slammed shut, porch light flicking off. Clarissa's mocking laughter echoed through the rain, then faded into silence. I stood frozen on the steps, clutching my shivering child. Rain pounded down, mingling with the tears I couldn't hold back. 4 years I had endured, believing obedience would earn me a place. But the cruel truth was clear. My son and I had never belonged here. Pressing my lips to Ethan's wet hair, I whispered like a vow, "I will never leave you. Even if the whole world turns its back, I'll carry you with me." And into the raging storm I stepped off that porch, once called a home, now forever close to us. The rain kept pouring as if the sky itself was breaking apart. I clutched Ethan, pulling the yellow knit blanket tighter to shield him from the biting cold. My bare feet hit the pothole-ridden road, splashing mud and water, each step slicing into my skin. I didn't dare look back. Behind me was a house with doors locked, filled with cold eyes and cruel laughter. Ahead was nothing but darkness, rolling thunder, and endless roads. Ethan sobbed against my chest, his tiny hand clutching my shirt like he feared being abandoned again. I hurried to soothe him, my voice trembling. "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here. Don't be scared. We'll find a safe place." I had no idea where I was going, only that I had to leave that house. Street lamps flickered dim yellow through the storm. My body shook, breath ragged, my mind foggy after a long day's shift. But I didn't stop. I had to protect Ethan no matter the cost. A truck roared past, splashing water all over me. My body stiffened, shivering from the cold, arms tightening around Ethan. My legs were giving out. I tried to take another step when blinding headlights hit my eyes. The screech of brakes tore through the rain. I spun, shielding Ethan. A violent impact slammed into me. My body hit the wet asphalt, pain exploding everywhere. Yet even in that moment I held Ethan tightly, refusing to let him slip from my arms. The last sound before darkness swallowed me was a man's panicked voice. Lord, are you okay? Hold on to the baby. When I woke, the sharp smell of antiseptic filled my nose. Harsh fluorescent lights above burned my eyes. I lay in a hospital bed, head heavy, every breath stabbing at my ribs. My hand shot out instinctively, searching for Ethan. Son, where's Ethan? I whispered. A deep, steady voice came from the corner of the room. The boy's safe. He's sleeping right beside you. I turned. A man in his mid-30s, tall, with dark brown hair still damp from the rain, sat in a chair near the window. His shirt was still wet, shoes muddy, but his eyes were calm and certain. I'm Daniel Walker, he said sincerely. I was the driver last night. I brought you and your baby here. My breath caught. You hit me. Daniel nodded, guilt in his face. Yes. But I slammed the brakes with everything I had. It could have been so much worse. Luckily, you only have bruises. No broken bones. I'm sorry. What matters is your son's safe. I turned my head. Ethan lay in a clear bassinet, wrapped in a clean blanket, face peaceful, chest rising and falling evenly. My heart cracked open with relief. Tears rushed out, but this time they were tears of release. I looked back at Daniel, my voice breaking. Thank you. If it weren't for you, He shook his head, gaze firm. No one deserves to go through that. Especially not a child. I just did what had to be done. A nurse entered, checked my blood pressure and smiled gently. Josephine, you're lucky. Your son's perfectly healthy. You only need rest for a few days. Lucky. The word stung. Lucky? When my own mother had thrown me into the storm. When my sister had laughed in my face. I bit it back, refusing to cry in front of strangers. Daniel remained seated, watching silently. When the nurse left, he spoke quietly. Do you have anywhere to go? My grip tightened on the bedsheet. I saw again the slamming door, Clarissa's mocking laugh echoing in my head. My throat closed. No. I don't have anywhere. He paused, then said slowly, if you're willing, I have an empty house. It's small but safe for you and your boy. I stared at him in disbelief. Why would you help me? We don't even know each other. His eyes didn't waver. Because I've seen it before. A baby left in the rain, forgotten. I swore I'd never turn away again. Last night when I saw you, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't answer. I only looked back at Ethan. In the white glow, his innocent face shone like a reminder. I had to choose what was best for him. And deep in my chest, in the middle of despair, a fragile spark of hope flickered to life. I lay in the hospital bed, aches still humming through every bone, yet my eyes never left the small bassinet beside me. Ethan slept soundly, his breath steady, cheeks flushed pink under a clean blanket. Seeing him so peaceful, I felt just enough strength to fight on. Footsteps echoed. I looked up to see Daniel return, a folder in his hands. His eyes were calm but resolute. The hospital wants to keep you a few more days for observation. I've already taken care of the bill. I froze. Why would you do that? I can't repay you. Daniel set the papers on the table, his voice firm. Josephine, I don't need repayment. I did it because it's the right thing. You and your son shouldn't be worrying about money right now. My throat tightened. For years I had only known coldness, ridicule, even cruelty from my own family. And now a stranger was helping without hesitation, without strings. I didn't know whether to believe or doubt. Sensing my hesitation, Daniel pulled a chair closer, lowering his voice. I know you don't trust me yet. But Josephine, I've seen too many people left behind. I was one of them once. When I was younger, I lost everything in one night. If a stranger hadn't reached out to me, I wouldn't be here. You don't owe me anything. I'm just paying that kindness forward. I searched his eyes. There was no pity, only a sincerity I couldn't explain. A part of me wanted to believe. Ethan stirred, his tiny hands twitching in sleep. Daniel quietly stood, adjusting the blanket over him. The tenderness in that small act made me sigh without meaning to. Could a man show such care without pretending? I wasn't sure. He turned back to me. Tomorrow you'll be discharged. I have a small house just outside the city. Safe, comfortable. If you want, you and your son can stay there until you get back on your feet. I shook my head instinctively. I can't take more from you. I've already been a burden. Daniel's gaze didn't waver. Josephine, this isn't charity. It's a choice. You can either go back to the place that cast you out, Or give your son a roof, even if it's temporary. The decision is yours. But think of Ethan. His last words pierced straight through me. He was right. I no longer had the luxury of selfish choices. Looking down at my boy, I touched his warm cheek and whispered, Ethan deserves a home, even if just for now. Daniel didn't press further. He only nodded as if he had known I would agree. That night, the ward fell silent, yet sleep never came. My mind kept circling back. My childhood house, Clarissa's cruel laughter, my mother's icy words. And now Daniel, a stranger who had appeared in a storm, suddenly the only person standing by me. My heart was torn between gratitude and fear. The next morning, discharge papers were signed quickly. Daniel was waiting with his car, and to my surprise, he had even brought a proper child safety seat, something I had never been able to afford. When he gently placed Ethan in it, tears blurred my vision. Not out of pity, but because for the first time, someone had thought ahead for my son's well-being. The storm had passed, leaving behind a gray sky and puddles glistening on the streets. I stared out the window, silent, my mind tangled. After a while, Daniel spoke softly, Josephine, I know this feels impossible to believe. But sometimes strangers become the support family never gave. You don't have to decide everything now. Let time prove it to you. I turned to look at him. His eyes didn't push, didn't demand, only patient. And for the first time in days, my chest eased enough to breathe. The car turned down a tree-lined road. Ahead stood a 2-story wooden house, wide porch glowing warm under golden lights. Next to it, a smaller home, freshly painted white, quaint and inviting. My heart pounded. I had never imagined stepping foot into a place that looked so much like safety. Daniel parked, stepped out first, then opened my door. He lifted a drowsy Ethan in his arms and said softly, Welcome home, Josephine. At least for now. I stood beneath the porch, emotions tangled. I didn't know what the future held. But in that moment, watching my son rest safely in someone's steady arms, a fragile seed of hope took root. Maybe this was the beginning of a new life for us. The small house beside the main estate looked like it had stepped out of a postcard. White porch, freshly painted wooden fence, climbing roses framing one of the windows. Daniel placed Ethan in the carrier, gave me a slight nod as if to say, Trust this. I swallowed hard and followed him inside. The interior nearly took my breath away. Polished wooden floors, crisp white curtains, the faint scent of lavender in the air. Everything was neat, warm, inviting. A woman's voice called from the kitchen. Daniel, you finally brought guests home? I turned. A silver-haired woman, a little over 50, in a simple cotton dress stepped out. Her eyes were bright, her smile gentle yet firm. Daniel introduced us. This is Mrs. Helen Carter, who manages my household. Helen, this is Josephine and her son Ethan. Mrs. Helen looked me over, her gaze assessing but not unkind. Then she bent down, gently touching Ethan's tiny hand waving in the carrier. Hello there, little one. You're adorable. Josephine, if you need anything, just ask me. There are no harsh rules here. Only one principle. Anyone who walks into this home deserves to feel safe. My eyes burned. Her words were simple, but to me they were worth more than any promise. I nodded, whispering thanks. Daniel set down the bags, speaking briefly. Josephine, I have to return to the city for some business. Helen will look after you too. Treat this as your home. Before leaving, he added, Rest well. Don't worry about bills or paperwork. I'll handle it. When the door closed, it was just me and Mrs. Helen in this unfamiliar space. She pointed toward the bedroom. Go change and take a bath. I've prepared fresh towels and a little food. You look too thin. I stepped into the bedroom. The bed was neatly made with white sheets, and on the table sat a basket filled with baby formula, diapers, and tiny clothes. I froze. A stranger had thought of my child's needs when my own blood relatives had left him in the storm. That night, for the first time in months, I placed Ethan in a sturdy crib beside my bed. Listening to his steady breathing in sleep, my heart finally eased. No pounding rain, no cruel words. Just the smell of fresh wood and an unfamiliar peace. The next morning, Helen knocked, carrying a tray with eggs, toast, and a warm glass of milk. She set it down, squinting at me. Eat, Josephine. If you want to care for your baby, you need strength. Don't think you're a burden here. You don't have to carry everything alone. Her words tightened my throat. I bowed my head, whispering thanks as tears slipped down my hand. The days that followed felt nothing like the life I'd known. Mornings, I sat on the porch with Ethan, sunlight streaming through the trees. Afternoons, Helen stopped by, teaching me little tricks to soothe a baby, sharing stories of her youth in Texas. Nights, there were no shouts, no slamming doors, only the sound of wind through the fence. One evening, Daniel returned carrying several large bags. I was stunned to find them filled with baby supplies. A stroller, blankets, formula. I stammered, I can't accept all of this. He set them down, meeting my eyes directly. Josephine, this isn't pity. These are things Ethan deserves. If your family won't provide, then let someone else do it. I stayed quiet. Deep down, I knew I was beginning to trust him, though fear of dependence still clung to me. That night, after Ethan fell asleep, I sat by the window, holding the old yellow blanket now washed clean. I whispered, "My love, maybe we've found a place that won't turn us away." Outside, porch lights glowed over the rose garden, the air filled with a gentle fragrance. For the first time in years, I dared to believe peace didn't only exist in dreams. The first days in the guest house passed more peacefully than I expected. I still kept my job at the small diner downtown, the only place willing to take in a young mother with a messy history and no one to vouch for her. The work was exhausting but steady, and at least it reminded me I wasn't completely dependent on anyone. That Friday at noon, the diner was busier than usual. I rushed from counter to tables, balancing trays of coffee and bagels. Sweat beaded on my forehead, but I forced a smile for every customer. While I was refilling coffee, the sharp click of high heels cut through the noise. My chest tightened before I even looked up. My mother, Martha, had walked in. She wore a deep purple dress, pearls gleaming at her neck, makeup flawless. Behind her was Clarissa, my sister, draped in a fiery red dress and lipstick to match. The two of them stood out like they didn't belong, every head in the diner turning toward them. Martha's eyes swept across the room until they landed on me behind the counter. The corner of her mouth curled in a half-smile, half-sneer. Clarissa straightened her back, strutting like she was on a runway, heels clacking deliberately against the tile. My hands trembled, the coffee pot nearly slipping. The memory of that stormy night slammed back into me and my body shook. Still, I forced my voice steady. "What are you doing here?" Clarissa's laugh rang sharp, loud enough for every customer to hear. "So this is where you ended up? Serving coffee, wiping tables. What a proud career, Josephine." A few customers turned to look, some whispering. My face burned hot, hands gripping the pot tighter. I answered through clenched teeth, "There's no shame in honest work." Martha stepped forward, setting her designer purse down on table 4. Her voice was clear and cutting. "Honest work? You've disgraced this family since the day you brought that boy home. Don't think hiding under another man's roof erases the shame." My throat closed. Clarissa's laugh exploded, arms crossed, her eyes blazing with satisfaction. "I heard you're living in some rich man's house now? Typical Josephine, clinging, dependent. Without a man you'd starve." Her words echoed across the diner, shredding what little pride I had left. I felt every eye on me as if I'd been turned into a cheap spectacle. I lowered my voice but made it firm. "Mother. Clarissa. Leave. This isn't the place for your insults." Martha planted her hands on her hips, glaring straight at me. "Don't forget, Josephine, you owe me your childhood and a roof over your head. You turned your back on us, you'll pay for it. I'll never let you be at peace." A couple of customers shook their heads, one murmured, "Leave her alone." But no one stepped in. My chest pounded, my lungs tight. I knew if I cried, they'd only feel victorious. So I clenched my fists and whispered, almost begging, "Please go. I have work to do." Clarissa tilted her head, lips twisting into a half-smile. "Pathetic. Fine. Do your job, Josephine. People come here to eat. I came here to see just how low you've fallen." With that, she and Martha turned, perfume trailing behind them, leaving the diner buzzing with curious stares. The door closed with a chime that cut me like a blade. I shoved the coffee pot onto the counter and stumbled into the restroom. Locking the door, I collapsed against the tile, sobs tearing free. I bit my lip hard, terrified someone might hear me. Daniel's words echoed in my mind, "You deserve more than just survival." Yet right then I felt like nothing but a failure, paraded in front of strangers. Wiping my face, I forced myself up. The mirror reflected swollen eyes, a weary face I barely recognized. For Ethan, I told myself, I can't fall apart. But inside, humiliation and bitterness gnawed deep, my family's shadow still chained to me. By the time my shift ended, dusk had fallen. Cold winds swept through the streets, making me shiver. On the walk back, one thought circled in my mind. If they had come this far to humiliate me, they would not stop here. And in my chest, a dark certainty rose. My short-lived peace was already slipping away. That night, when I returned to the guest house, I clutched Ethan without saying a word. Helen saw my pale face and only sighed, choosing not to press. Daniel, however, was different. He stood at the doorway, his sharp gaze catching every trembling movement. "Josephine," he said quietly, "they came to see you, didn't they?" I sank into a chair, my hands shaking. My mother and Clarissa, they walked right into the diner. They humiliated me in front of customers, said things that made me want to disappear. Daniel's jaw tightened, anger flashing across his face. They won't stop. The more you endure, the more power you give them. You need to protect yourself and your son another way. I shook my head, voice breaking. I don't want to fight, Daniel. I just want peace to raise my child. He stepped closer, eyes unwavering. Josephine, peace doesn't just arrive. You have to claim it. In this country, the law can be your shield. If you learn to use it. I'll give you the number of a lawyer. Just talk. No strings attached. His words echoed in my mind all night. I held Ethan close, fear gnawing at me. If they came again, could I really protect him? The answer was too clear. No. And that truth pushed me toward something I'd never dared before. 2 days later, I wheeled Ethan's stroller into the city library. Rows of computers hummed quietly under bright lights. With trembling fingers, I typed, "Child custody rights in Alabama, protective orders, single mother harassment." Each phrase on the screen sharpened my focus. I printed documents, highlighted passages, my determination growing with every page. That evening, Daniel dropped by and saw the table covered in papers. A faint smile touched his lips. "Looks like you've started." I met his eyes, no longer trembling. I won't let them just show up, humiliate me, or threaten my son. Ethan deserves to grow up without venom from his own grandmother and aunt. Daniel nodded. Good. That's the Josephine I believed was there all along. Later that night, once Ethan was asleep, I gathered my courage and typed a message to my mother and Clarissa. It was brief, clear. "Do not come near me or Ethan again. If you do, I will take legal action. This is your only warning." I hit send, my heartbeat pounding like a drum. Within 10 minutes, replies lit my screen. From my mother, "Don't think you can scare me. You'll regret standing against your own family." From Clarissa, venomous as ever. "You think you're strong now? You'll come crawling back just like always." I set the phone down, refusing to answer. For the first time, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I felt calm. That calm didn't last. One afternoon, as my shift ended, a man in a dark suit entered the diner carrying a thick envelope. "Josephine Miller?" he asked. I nodded, heart clenching. He placed the envelope on the counter, voice flat. "You've been served. This is a summons." The bold letters hit me like a blow. "Petition for grandparent visitation. Martha Miller." My knees nearly buckled. My breath came short, palms cold and slick. They weren't just trying to shame me anymore. They wanted to use the law to take my child. Back at the house, Daniel read the papers, his eyes narrowing. "They're trying to weaponize the court. But Josephine, you're not alone. We'll fight them with the very law they think will crush you." I hugged Ethan tightly to my chest, fear and resolve warring inside me. If this was war, I wouldn't run. In that moment, I understood. Resistance wasn't just about saving myself. It was about teaching my son that we have the right to stand against injustice. And I was ready for the first real battle of my life. That morning, the Jefferson County Courthouse was packed. I walked through the cold stone hallway, my palms slick with sweat. Ethan stayed home with Helen so I could focus entirely on the hearing. Beside me was Charles Hargrove, the attorney Daniel had introduced me to, a silver-haired man in his 60s, calm in demeanor, his steady presence grounding me. Across the room sat my mother, Martha, dressed in deep purple, pearls at her throat, playing the part of a model grandmother. Next to her was Clarissa, her hair perfectly curled, her face composed, throwing me the occasional mocking glance. My blood burned just looking at them. When the session began, their lawyer stood, voice smooth, rehearsed. Your Honor, we are here today for the welfare of a child. My client, Mrs. Martha Miller, only seeks visitation rights for her grandson, a poor child living in unhealthy conditions with his mother. Josephine Miller is unstable, financially incapable, and dependent on a man to whom she is not married. Clearly, this is a harmful environment for the child's development. I gripped my fists, ready to explode, but Hargrove placed a hand on my wrist, signaling me to wait. Then Clarissa rose, oozing false confidence. I've seen Josephine neglect her son repeatedly. She leaves him crying through the night while she sleeps. She's unfit to be a mother. Whispers rippled through the courtroom. My chest tightened with rage, lies, all of it. But I remembered Hargrove's words. Don't react emotionally. Let the evidence speak. When our turn came, Hargrove rose slowly, each step deliberate. Your Honor, let's not allow rehearsed words to obscure the truth. We have clear evidence that Mrs. Martha Miller deliberately left an 8-month-old baby outside in a storm, an act that endangered his life. He placed a folder on the judge's desk. My heart clenched seeing the photos I'd taken that night. Ethan curled on the porch, yellow blanket soaked through, his face red from cold. The courtroom fell silent. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s, studied the images carefully before fixing her gaze on my mother. Mrs. Miller, is this your grandson left outside in such conditions? Martha faltered, her face cracking. She forced a nervous smile. These photos, they're edited. I only stepped out for a moment. But her voice trembled, nothing like the confidence she had worn walking in. Hargrove's tone deepened, steady and commanding. Your Honor, Josephine may not be wealthy, but she has worked tirelessly to provide for her son. Meanwhile, her own family turned their backs, not only refusing support but endangering the child's safety. Who here is truly unfit? I stood at his cue, my voice shaking at first but gaining strength. My son is not a tool for control. I begged them for shelter, but all I received were insults and a slammed door. I am not here to fight for pride. I am here to protect Ethan from those who abandoned him in the rain. Silence filled the room. The judge studied me for a long moment before rapping her gavel lightly. The arguments dragged on for another hour. My mother's lawyer tried to spin it as family conflict, but the judge's piercing stare stripped the excuse bare. At last, the ruling came. A temporary restraining order was granted to ensure Ethan's safety, and the visitation request was denied pending further review. Relief surged through me like breath after drowning. As I stepped out of the courtroom, my mother lunged close, fury blazing in her eyes. Through clenched teeth she hissed, "You think you've won? I will never let you rest." But I didn't flinch. I looked her dead in the eyes, my voice cold as steel. Then you should be afraid. Because I'm not the silent daughter anymore. Clarissa tugged her away, her own face shaken. I turned and saw Daniel waiting, his gaze steady, a quiet anchor. Hargrove patted my shoulder gently, murmuring, "You did well, Josephine. This is only the beginning, but you've taken control." I drew a deep breath, clutching the folder to my chest. In that moment I knew, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was fighting. And this time I would not retreat. After the hearing, the air around me felt different. My mother's petition was denied, and the restraining order was officially granted. That single sheet of paper, stamped in red, was small in size but powerful enough to cut off an entire painful past. For the first time I felt the law protect me, something I had never believed I had the right to rely on. In the days that followed, I began piecing life back together. Each morning, I took Ethan out to the porch, his laughter echoing through the sunlit garden. Helen often stopped by, carrying a basket of apples or freshly baked bread, scolding me gently while smiling kindly. "Your boy is sharp, Josephine. But you need to eat more. Ethan deserves a strong mother." Those simple words reminded me I wasn't alone anymore. Daniel was often away for work, but every time he returned, he brought a quiet warmth with him. One evening, as I folded Ethan's laundry, he laid a folder on the table. "This house. I'm thinking of signing it over to you if you'll accept." I froze, shaking my head quickly. "Daniel, you've already done too much for us. I can't take more." He smiled, his eyes steady. "Josephine, this isn't charity. It's a way for you to know you have the right to stand firm, without fearing that someone will throw you out onto the street again. I stayed silent for a long time, tears brimming. It wasn't the house itself. It was the fact that, for the first time, someone believed I deserved safety. Time passed. I went back to work at the diner, but now I no longer bowed under whispers. I knew I was different. I was no longer the Josephine who trembled on a stormy porch years ago. One late afternoon, as my shift ended, my phone buzzed. The screen flashed Michael's name, my youngest brother I hadn't spoken to in years. I hesitated, then answered. His voice was deeper now, but still carried that old uncertainty. Joe, I saw the news about the hearing. I just want to say, I'm proud of you. I went still. Michael had once been the only one who quietly stood by me as a child, until my mother and Clarissa pulled him away. Hearing him now made my chest tighten. Michael, you have no idea how long I've waited to hear that. He paused, then spoke softly. I'm tired of Mom's control too. I want out just like you. If it's okay, I'd like to come visit you and Ethan. I broke down in tears, this time tears of relief. At last I still had family, real family. That night I sat on the porch, Ethan in my arms. Moonlight washed over the rose garden, a soft breeze brushing past. I whispered, "My boy, we've walked through storms. Now it's time to live a new life. No more chains, no more humiliation. We'll live for ourselves." Ethan laughed, his tiny hands patting my face as if to answer. The scars inside me weren't easy to erase, but I had learned to turn them into strength. I no longer needed recognition from my mother or Clarissa. I had my son, the support of Daniel and Helen, and now a reconnection with Michael. I defined my worth not by the labels others had given me, but by my own choices. And my choice was to live free, to raise my child with love, not fear. That night, before bed, I opened the drawer and pulled out the old yellow knit blanket. My fingers traced the rough threads, remembering Ethan curled in the rain. But instead of pain, I smiled. The blanket no longer symbolized shame. It was proof of the journey we had survived. I folded it carefully, placing it by Ethan's crib. Gently, I whispered to myself, "The Josephine who only knew how to bow her head is gone. From now on, I am the mother strong enough to protect my son and our life." Outside, the night wind blew softly as if welcoming this new beginning. And in my heart, peace had finally arrived. Josephine's story reflects a bitter yet familiar reality. Some families don't offer love but only impose, control, and humiliate. Yet through courage, she proved that everyone deserves protection, that it's possible to reclaim self-worth outside toxic chains. In real life, the greatest lesson isn't escape. It's standing up, using the law and determination to create peace at home. Sometimes happiness begins the moment we dare to say, "Enough." What do you think about Josephine's journey and the way she broke free from her family's toxic control? If it were you, what choice would you make? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful family stories to come.